Hey guys, Brent Sibley here, Sibley Law Firm. Thanks for coming to my YouTube channel. Wanted to make a video about a topic that a lot of clients have been asking me about for a long time, but seems to be hotter than ever now. And the topic is 411 pain. How does it work? Is it legit? Is it a scam? I get all these questions. So wanted to take a few minutes and, just share with you my opinions about this topic and what I know from my perspective. And again, it's important to remember that these are just my opinions. I've done no independent fact checking or research, but you can see my screen and I'm connected to the same internet as you, and I'm gonna just do some things on the internet, pull up some news articles, discuss, what my impression is of what different news outlets might be saying about this topic and what media has written about it in the past. So with that being said, let's just go over to Google. So I'm going to type, well, you could see some of my search history, but if you just type is 411 pain, and the first thing is a suggestion is 411 pain legit? So, actually, just to be very clear, because I love being really precise, I'm going to remove that from my web history, just in case you might not think this is legit. So, is 411 pain legit? So that's the first thing that the Google itself algorithm pulls up if you just type is 411 pain legit. So, obviously, there's a lot of skepticism about 411 pain because that's what the most commonly typed search thing is in the algorithm. If you type is 411 pain, so that's a little telling. But you draw your own conclusions. If you type it in, you're going to see some ads. The first three things are advertisements. Can't really take these into too much consideration because these are people just paying for advertisements, and hopefully everybody knows that by now. You'll see the little ad thing right there. It's green. These are advertisements. Now, this is the first regular article that Google picked up, second regular article, third one, which is an article that I've clicked on recently, so that's why it's purple. And this is the Miami New Times article that was written in December of 2010. That one stirred up a lot of controversy because they did I'll click on it in a second, but they clicked on they did a lot of research, and they dug up a lot of dirt. So let's see if there's anything else here. But anyway, okay, so let's click on this article. Let's look at this article. It's called Crash Course, little play on words. I believe that's the guy Robert Lewin, who's the founder. And like I said, it's a pretty extensive article. I just reread the entire article, just to kind of brush up on the kind of stuff that they were talking about. But essentially, this is a case study of 411 pain, and it goes through and it talks about the experience that this poor guy had where he got in a crash. And it's an anecdotal story, so it's just a one person's experience of how they dealt with 411 pain. But a couple important things to take away from this article and from 411 pain in general. 411 pain spends a lot of money on marketing, obviously. Their motto, after you call 911, call 411, is very clever. And I don't know if people are being tricked, but I'm sure there are some people out there that legitimately believe that 411 pain is almost not even a business, but almost like a government agency. That's whether or not that's their intention. After you call 911, call 411. Everybody knows 911 is obviously a service run by the government or the municipality, but does everybody know that 411 pain is a different, just private business number? I don't know. I'm sure there's got to be some of the many millions of people that hear their ads that are confused. I know. I'm a lawyer. I understand how this works, but I'm sure some people don't. Anyway, they spend a ton of money on advertising, and the 411 pain jingle and the advertisements and the spokesmodels, they get stuck in people's heads. And, we've had several clients who come to us after calling 411 pain. They get referred to a lawyer and then a chiropractor, but they have the same experience that this guy had, where once he signed up with the lawyer, called 401 Pain. They told him which a lawyer that could help him. He spoke to the lawyer once, and then basically the lawyer would never call them back. He always made his secretary talk to them, and eventually they just never got to speak to the guy again. And they went to the chiropractor 48 times or whatever the article says, and they pretty much never got anything. They were never able to speak to the lawyer again after that, and they obviously never got any money from the lawyer, which ultimately is the reason why this guy, who they talk about in this article, he hired another law firm to try and do a class action against 401 Pain for all the people who are in his position, where they get in a crash, they go to the doctor a bunch of times, their lawyer never does the meeting with them and never calls them back, and then at the end of the day, their car insurance is paying for the doctor, the chiropractor treatment, but they never get a penny themselves. So, one of the big things that I hear a lot from people is, "Oh, I've heard all the commercials," and I usually roll my eyes and I say, "Yes, what's your question?" And the question usually is, "Well, do I just get $10,000 because I was in a crash?" Now, I don't blame people for thinking this, because they've seen so many advertisements. But the truth is that if you think that you're just going to get $10,000 cash because you are the victim of a car crash, that's insane. Like, please, you can't think that. What world are you living on? Like, does Santa Claus just come to your door? Does the representative from the car insurance just come to your door and just deliver you $10,000 check? Every single person that's ever been in a crash? Then why wouldn't you just get in a crash every day, right? So that was a side rant. But anyway, that's not how it works, okay? What it is that if you are in a car crash and you have valid car insurance at the time of the crash, let's just say Geico, just for the sake of discussion. If you have Geico and you get in a car crash and your car insurance policy is valid at the time of the crash, you paid all your premiums and so on and so forth, then you have a contract with Geico. You and Geico have a contract, and if certain things happen under the contract itself, you are entitled to certain benefits because you paid for a deal with Geico, and now they have to pay you back pursuant to the contract. So there's a couple different things. We're not going to get into too much details, but there's lost wages, there's medical benefits. Those are the two main ones, and the idea is that in Florida, it's called no-fault insurance or PIP insurance, and generally your policy will pay up to $10,000 of benefits to you, not really to you, potentially to you, but on your behalf. So what does that mean? If you got in a crash and you went to the hospital, they'll pay for those bills, and they'll probably only pay them at 80% of what the value of the bills are. And if you were forced to miss work, they will pay for potentially 60% of your lost wages. Okay, but they're an insurance company, just like they have lawyers working for them the same way lawyers work on your case. It's not so easy as pick up the phone and say, "Oh, I lost $10,000 of wages." No, they're going to require either a signed, sworn statement from your supervisor. They're going to require pay stubs. They're going to require the hospital bills. And in many cases, they won't even issue the payment to you. They're going to issue it directly to the medical provider's office. So they're going to pay the hospital or the chiropractor or whoever gave you the medical benefits. They're not even going to pay you. So the only way you're ever going to see any of that money, the only way you can ever see actual money from your auto insurance PIP, no fault insurance, is if you lost wages. And they're never going to pay you back 100 cents on the dollar. If you lost $5,000 of wages, they're going to only pay you 60% of that. So they're going to pay you $3,000. And it's not like you're making money off that, because you lost $5,000 of earnings and then you're still only getting 60% of that back. So, it gets a little bit confusing, but the point is that you're definitely not ever going to be better off by using your PIP insurance, like in terms of getting cash in your pocket. This is the kind of stuff that you learn when you hire a real law firm that doesn't go through referral services. And it's nothing against referral services. You can find good lawyers through referral services also. but you have to be skeptical. I'm going to post a link to this article below, and I encourage you to read the article fully. But everybody has their own agenda. Even me, I have my own agenda. A lot of times I try and my agenda is to educate people and build trust with them. That's what I'm trying to do with my YouTube channel and these videos, and that's my honest agenda. And then eventually people may hire me as their attorney somewhere down the road. But my agenda is to build trust with people of South Florida and get them to understand who I am and how I represent and how I help people. And a big part of that is educating. I educate all of my clients, and that's what this is all about. But anyway, the point is even the guy who writes this article, or girl, they have an agenda. Their specific agenda is to glamorize whatever he's talking about, make it sound, if it's bad, make it sound really bad, make it sound like it's fraud and there's all these criminals. So, sophisticated people, you can understand. You read this article and you say, oh, I get what he's saying, but he's using all these big words and he's making it sound a lot worse than it is. However, it still could be true. There still could be a lot of problems with what he's talking about in the 401 pain system. Some of the stuff, that they talk about here are they interview the insurance commissioner or whatever position he holds, the regulatory guy in charge of insurance fraud. They talk about how it's really difficult to prove insurance fraud. You have somebody who says they're hurt after an accident, but are they really just trying to get medical care because they think that they're going to do a personal injury case because their lawyer told them that they're going to win the case, so to speak. So always keep that in the back of your head when you're reading. But read the article. It gives a good insight as to what one guy went through when he called 401 pain. And I highly encourage anybody who has hired a lawyer, whether it's through 401 pain or another referral service or just off the internet, or maybe a friend referred you to the attorney. Yes, we're attorneys. We're very busy. We're in court a lot. We have a lot of clients. But if your attorney never calls you back at all, ever, he's maybe available to do the first meeting with you and never wants to talk to you, that's not a good sign. A couple days go by, maybe. At Sibley Law, we try and get back to every client the same day, or at least within 24 hours if they have a request that they need to go over. The attorney doesn't specifically have to be the one who gets back to you every single time, but when you have a big question that's an overall question about your case, that's something for the attorney that they should probably get back to you. We have specific team members that handle, someone does insurance stuff, someone does the medical stuff, and those people can answer the small questions that come up day to day. But when you really want to know what's going on with your case, does the other person have insurance? What insurance do they have? How much insurance do they have? These are the kind of questions that you really need to speak to your attorney about, not one of the staff members. And at our firm, every single client of the entire firm has my cell phone number. I respond to text messages and phone calls as much as possible. Very, very important that all of our clients know that I am working on their case, and sometimes other attorneys in our firm are working on their case too, but always somebody that has the ability to see the big picture and is the actual attorney has to be helping them. So going back to this article and talking about 401 pain, the way it works is generally something like this. That you get in a crash, you call 401 pain. 401 pain is its own company, and they have affiliations. So it says in the article, and again, I haven't done any of my own fact checking, but apparently 401 pain is owned by a guy who is heavily involved and invested in medical facilities. So the story goes that you call 401 pain, they plug in your address, they look at all the different attorneys that are subscribing to their service, and they'll say, oh, well, we found this attorney, he's a few blocks from your house or your office, why don't you give him a call, he'll help you figure out everything. Okay, so then you call this attorney, that attorney then brings you into the office, does a meeting with you, may or may not promise you the world, acts really nice the first day, and tells you, well, if you're hurt, you need to get treatment, and you need to get a lot of treatment. You need to do exactly what the doctors tell you to do. So he tells you to go to a facility which may or may not be affiliated back with the owners of the referral company. So the lawyer, you call 401 Pain, 401 Pain then sends you to a lawyer. The lawyer then sends you back to go to a doctor that is affiliated with 401 Pain. This is all theoretical. I don't know if this happens every time. There was a big Supreme Court decision about this at one point that said that that was potentially going to be illegal, and it would be against the Florida bar rules if an attorney were to send back a client to become a patient of the same facility, of the same owner, person or entity that referred them in the first place. So it would be illegal or unethical under the Florida attorney rules for an attorney to send a client that they just signed up as a client to go back so that they could be now a patient of a doctor's office that's owned by the same guy who owns the referral company that sent them in the first place. So as you can see, it gets kind of complicated. It gets a little bit of a spider web of who does this and whose agenda am I going under? Am I really going to get any money at this at the end of the day? And that's why you really want, generally you want an attorney who really only cares about your best interest. He doesn't care about getting more cases from a referral service like 401 Pain, or he doesn't care about, the chiropractor who might be charging your insurance for their medical treatment. At Sibley Law, we represent people, and our only job is to get the most amount of money for their injuries in our trust account for them, because we hold the money in trust when we settle a case, and then when we finish the case, the client gets a full accounting. So if we settle a case for $100,000, we get a closing statement. It says, okay, this is the $100,000 that we got. This doctor had this much bills. This doctor had this much bills. Usually we negotiate those bills down, and here's our attorney's fees, and then you get the rest, maybe $55,000, $65,000, something like that. That's the way it's supposed to work, and that's the way that every case that we have, that's our goal, is to maximize the amount of recovery for the client. So, kind of just a little bit of an overview about a couple of the different topics that seem to be coming up over and over again when it comes to 401 Pain. I'm going to hopefully get some feedback and hopefully I've addressed a lot of the different parts of what my clients and what my friends and family always seem to be asking me about. What to do with 401 Pain? What are all these articles? Why are they spending so much money on advertising? How are they making all this money? So again, it's not really just my opinions based on what's out there on the internet right now. Again, I'll put the link to this article there, and hope you guys were able to benefit a little bit by listening to me. And thanks again, Brent Sibley, Sibley Law Firm, learning a little bit today about how 401 Pain works.